Marcus is the oldest of the workers here. Been at Rosemont Cemetery for nearly 40 years. I catch him one evening as fog rolls between the headstones, thick as cotton, swallowing the light. I ask, "Hey Marcus, have you ever experienced anything unexplainable here?" He goes quiet. His weathered hands stop moving. His eyes drift toward the old section where the maple trees grow twisted and dark. Then he speaks. "Back in 1987, I started working here with Samuel Barnes. Old Sam, we called him. One October afternoon, cold gray sky pressing down like a coffin lid. We had a funeral for a 7-year-old boy. Last name burned itself into my memory. Walton. Christopher Walton. Chris. The service was small, heartbreaking. His mother collapsed at the graveside, screaming his name until her voice went raw. We lowered that small casket without issue. The family finally left, supported by friends, their sobs echoing through the graves. Just 8 of us remained in that silent graveyard as the sun began to set. Long shadows stretched across the tombstones like reaching fingers. We started lowering the concrete vault cover that his parents bought. When my rope suddenly snapped, the sound, God, that sound, like a gunshot in the quiet. My side came crashing down and shattered the bottom right corner of the casket. Wood splintered with a sickening crack that seemed to echo forever. I couldn't breathe. I looked down into that dark hole. There he was, little Chris. I saw his small leg poking through the broken wood, black dress pants, those tiny cream-colored shoes his mother probably polished that morning with tears streaming down her face. His pale sock was visible where the pant leg had ridden up. I felt bile rise in my throat. Something broke inside me. Old Sam grabbed my arm. "Get away from there, Marcus, now." His voice shook, and Sam never shook. I stumbled away while the others worked to fix the cover. My hands trembled so badly I couldn't light a cigarette. I sat on this iron bench, still there today, 5 feet from where they worked. The temperature suddenly dropped. Dropped. Like walking into a freezer. I could see my breath in thick clouds. October in Georgia shouldn't be that cold. Ever. The other workers didn't seem to notice. They kept working, their voices distant, muffled somehow. That's when I felt it. A hand on my shoulder. Firm. Real. But ice cold through my jacket. I turned, and there stood a young man. Maybe 25. Pale skin. Holding a copper watering can, old and tarnished. Wearing a navy blue suit, old-fashioned, like from the 1940s or 50s. 3-piece. Perfectly pressed. But here's the thing. I could see through him. Just slightly. Like looking through dirty glass. His eyes were kind, understanding, but empty somehow, hollow. He smiled gently and said, "You're definitely not the first person to make that mistake, friend. Don't let it haunt you." His voice sounded like it came from the bottom of a well, distant, echoing. Then he chuckled, a sound that made my skin crawl, and added, "We all end up buried eventually, even those of us who try to help. Some of us stay to do the burying." I tried to speak, but no words came out. I watched, paralyzed, as he walked toward a grave under this massive maple tree, the oldest tree in the cemetery, planted in 1847. The tree where they used to hang criminals before this land became consecrated ground. He knelt down and started watering flowers at a headstone I'd never seen before. I could hear the water trickling, could see the flowers, fresh roses, moving in a wind I couldn't feel. Behind me, the workers suddenly shouted. I turned. One of them, Miguel, was pointing at little Chris's grave. "The dirt," he whispered. "It's moving." We all saw it. The fresh dirt around the grave rippled like water. Like something underneath was shifting, trying to get comfortable, or trying to get out. Old Sam made the sign of the cross. "Finish it, now. We finish this now and we leave." My heart hammering, I walked back to Sam and the crew. My legs felt like they'd give out any second. I whispered, "Sam, that man over there under the maple, is he actually there?" Sam looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "What are you talking about? Of course he's there, Marcus. I can see him same as you. Been watching him water those flowers for 5 minutes now." Relief washed over me. I wasn't crazy. But when we both looked back, he was gone. Vanished. The watering can sat on the ground, still dripping. The flowers he'd been watering, they were wilted, dead, brown and rotting like they'd been there for years. I've never seen fear like that on old Sam's face. His skin went white as the marble headstones. His hands started shaking. He grabbed my arm, hard enough to bruise, and pulled me toward that maple tree. "Marcus," he whispered, "that grave hasn't been dug yet. It's a single plot, reserved but empty. There's not supposed to be any headstone there. And there sure as hell aren't supposed to be flowers." My legs felt like water. We walked those 10 paces together, our footsteps crunching on dead leaves. The temperature around the maple tree was even colder. Our breath came out in thick white clouds. And there was nothing. No tombstone, no flowers, no watering can. Just unmarked grass and that ancient maple tree creaking in the wind, its branches swaying even though the air was perfectly still. But there was something. An indentation in the grass, shaped like a man kneeling. And the grass was dead in that exact spot. Brown, withered, like it had been poisoned. Old Sam made me swear, right there, hand on my heart, never to speak of it. "Nobody would understand," he said, his voice cracking. "They'd think we're crazy, or worse. They'd stop working here, and who'd care for the dead? Who'd keep them company?" That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Chris Walton's tiny cream-colored shoe, heard that rope snapping, felt that ice-cold hand on my shoulder. My phone rang. Old Sam. He was crying. "Marcus," he sobbed. I looked it up. I had to know. That maple tree. They hanged a gravedigger there in 1889. Young man, 25 years old, accused of stealing from the dead. They buried him in an unmarked grave right where he died. Said his soul would guard the cemetery forever as punishment. I hung up, unplugged the phone, but all night I heard it ringing anyway. Years passed, 6 of them. I tried to forget, tried to convince myself it was exhaustion, grief, shared delusion. Then, in October of 1993, Samuel Barnes died. Heart attack in his sleep. Sudden. He was only 62. His family wanted him buried in the old section of Rosemont, the part that barely gets used anymore. Victorian-era headstones, crumbling mausoleums covered in moss. Trees so thick they block out the sun even at noon. The part where the maple tree grows. We held the service on a bitter cold day, wind howling through the branches like voices screaming, dark clouds rolling in from the east. Just before we lowered Sam's vault cover, this kid, Thomas, a part-timer, barely 18, second week on the job, couldn't hold the weight. His rope slipped through his gloves. He dropped his side. The cover crashed down exactly like mine had years before. Same angle, same corner, same sickening crack of wood splitting. Thomas went pale, started shaking so hard his teeth chattered. He dropped to his knees and vomited in the grass. I saw myself in him, that same terror and guilt, that same feeling of having disturbed something that should never be disturbed. The other workers backed away from the grave. One of them, James, pointed down into the hole. "Do you see that?" he whispered. We all looked. Old Sam's casket was damaged, but through the crack, we could see his hand, his left hand. And his fingers were moving, just slightly, curling inward like he was trying to make a fist, trying to grab onto something. "It's just the settling," I heard myself say. "Bodies do that. Natural process." But I didn't believe it. Nobody did. I walked over to Thomas, put my hand on his shoulder. It felt cold, my hand, like touching him drew the warmth right out of me, and said the exact words I needed to hear all those years ago. "Don't worry, son. It happens to everyone. We all make mistakes here. We all end up buried." Some of us just take longer than others. Something felt strange as I said it, like the words weren't fully mine, like someone else was speaking through me, using my mouth, my voice. I grabbed a metal pail, copper, old, tarnished green with age, and filled it with water from the spigot near the bench. The same bench where I'd sat 6 years before. I told Thomas I was going to water the lonely potted roses someone left for Sam. My voice sounded hollow in my own ears, distant, echoing. As I walked up the hill, my shoes crunched on frost-covered grass. But it was my footsteps, and something else. Someone walking beside me. I could hear their footfalls, could see the grass bending under invisible feet. That's when I saw it. A headstone I'd never noticed before, even though I'd worked this section for years. Small, weathered, almost hidden by fallen leaves and creeping ivy. The name carved into the granite, Christopher Walton, 1980 to 1987. Forever young, forever watching. My blood turned to ice. I couldn't move. My eyes traced from that small grave, up the hill to where old Sam's fresh grave sat. Directly beneath the massive maple tree. The same tree. The exact spot where the man in the blue suit had watered flowers. The exact spot where they'd hanged the gravedigger in 1889. I looked down at myself. Navy blue suit. Copper pail in my hand, water sloshing. My hands. They looked translucent in the gray light. Not quite solid. I could see through my fingers to the ground below. Could see my bones beneath the skin like an X-ray. A child's voice behind me. "Are you here to help?" I spun around. There stood Chris Walton, 7 years old, black pants, cream-colored shoes. His face was pale, lips blue, dirt under his fingernails like he'd been clawing at something. His eyes were black, completely black, no whites at all. "I've been waiting," he said. "Sam promised he'd come. He said everyone who works here comes eventually. He said you'd come too." I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The boy smiled, too wide, too many teeth, and pointed at the maple tree. Hanging from the lowest branch was a rope, a noose, swaying in that impossible wind. "They're all here," Chris whispered. "All the workers, all the grave diggers, all the ones who stayed. We're waiting for you, Marcus. We've been waiting for 6 years." Panic seized me. I dropped the pail and ran, to the cemetery records building, crashed through the door, tore through filing cabinets like a madman. Binders and binders of plot purchases, deeds, burial records going back over a century, papers flying everywhere. My hands shaking so badly I could barely turn pages. Finally found it. Samuel Barnes, plot 447, section, Victorian Gardens. Reserved and purchased, October 14th, 1987. The same day we buried Chris Walton. The same day the rope snapped. The same day I met the man in the blue suit. But there was more. A handwritten note in Sam's shaky script. For Marcus, too. Plot 448. When his time comes, we all serve together, in life and after. I flipped frantically through more records, found my name. Plot 448, right next to Sam, under the maple tree. Reserved and purchased, October 14th, 1987. I never bought that plot, never signed anything, but there was my signature, my handwriting, my initials. Dated the same day, the day I couldn't remember, the hours after the rope snapped, the time I'd lost sitting on that bench. My supervisor found me an hour later, surrounded by scattered records, tears streaming down my face, laughing and crying at the same time. He asked what was wrong. I couldn't speak, couldn't explain that I'd become what I'd seen, that the cycle continues, that I'd been dead for 6 years and just hadn't realized it yet. He looked at me strangely. "Marcus, are you okay? You look different, pale." He reached out to touch my shoulder and his hand passed through me. Just for a second, just enough for both of us to notice. He stumbled backward, crossed himself, ran from the building. Because here's the truth nobody tells you about Rosemont Cemetery. Some of us who work here, we don't always leave. We can't. We keep helping. Keep comforting the new ones who make the same mistakes. Keep watering flowers that were planted decades ago by hands that have long turned to dust. Keep walking paths between graves we'll never truly leave. I still work here. Or maybe I just remain here. Some days I'm not sure anymore. Sometimes I see others like me. Gardeners from the 1920s still trimming hedges that don't grow. Groundskeepers from the Civil War era walking paths that have long since been paved over. The hanged gravedigger still watching, still serving his eternal sentence. And Chris. Always Chris. Playing among the graves, waiting for the next accident. The next worker who'll drop their rope and need someone to tell them it's okay. That mistakes happen. On cold October afternoons when the fog rolls in thick, I find myself walking toward the maple tree, carrying that copper watering can, wearing my navy blue suit, watching for the next young worker who'll drop their rope and need someone to tell them, "Don't worry, we all make mistakes. We all end up buried. And some of us, we stay to make sure no one's ever truly alone down there in the dark." Marcus finishes his story. When I look up to ask him another question, his bench is empty. Just an old copper watering can sitting beside it, condensation dripping down its sides. Still dripping, after all these years. And from somewhere in the old section, beneath the ancient maple tree, I hear a child laughing. Stay safe, guys.